Hey guys, it is Aoife from Fry Weasley Died Laughing, and I'm here with my third November weekly wrap up. So I had a pretty good reading week. I was pretty busy, so I didn't actually read that much, but I ended up getting 3 books read, so I'm pretty happy with that. And the first book that I finished this week was Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins, so I've been rereading the trilogy in anticipation for the movie, which is out now, which I will be going to see tomorrow, and I'm really excited. So I finished off Mockingjay this week, and I loved it, of course. 5 out of 5 stars. As I said last week, Catching Fire is definitely my favourite book of the series, but I do really like Mockingjay. I do have some problems with it, but not, I don't think, probably the same problems that a lot of other people have with it. I enjoy reading that Katniss isn't in the best mental health because I think it's very real. She wouldn't, like, with everything she's seen and everything she's done, she probably wouldn't be in the best mental health, and the same with Peeta. So I was pretty okay with all of that. And then there are other things, like certain people that die, that I'm not happy with, and it makes me really sad. So I had to go through all those feelings again with this book. And I mentioned it in my review, but I just realised while I was rereading this trilogy that Suzanne Collins is probably one of the very few YA authors whose books have gone really big that hasn't written a novella in the male character's point of view. So we did have Midnight Sun with Twilight. Obviously it wasn't published, but it was written. Then we had 4 for the Divergent series, and I feel like there's another one that I'm forgetting about, but there was definitely those anyway. I think a novella in Peeta's point of view, especially during the first Hunger Games, would have been really good, especially with him joining up with the Creers and how that kind of came about and how he felt during that. And I think, yeah, I would read that. I would think that would be really, really good. And as well, in Mockingjay, I was thinking that Castor and Pollux, their stories and how Pollux became an Avox and how, like, why he became an Avox and how they got him out and why they decided to go to District 13 and work for them. I think that would be really, really interesting, and I would definitely read those. I love a novella, and I would definitely read any Hunger Games novellas, but I don't think there'll ever be any, but it's a pity that there isn't, because I would really, really enjoy them. The next book I finished is Lethal Inheritance, and it was written by Talia Newland, and this is a book I got from NetGalley, and I just was kind of intrigued by the premise of this book, and I actually really liked the cover of it as well, which I'll put a picture of. And this is about a girl called Ariel, and her mother is kidnapped by demons one night, and she has to go on this crazy adventure to try and get her mum back, and she ends up discovering this whole new land right behind her house that she never knew existed, and it's kind of a destiny that she has in her blood, that she is going to be this amazing demon kind of killer. And she goes on this kind of quest to find her mum, and she also starts doing training in how to kill the demons that have captured her mother. So I thought I would like this a lot more than I did. I don't know really where it fell short, whether it was just me that I wasn't really getting the kind of way it was written. The land that it was set in, it wasn't really like any particular land, it was just kind of an add-on onto our world, and not everyone can see, but magical things happen in it, and there's things that, you know, may look real but aren't real in it, and it's quite a dangerous land because obviously there's demons and a lot of other magic things that can hurt someone. And it was kind of really wacky, and you never really knew what you were going to get with it, and it reminded me, the kind of eccentricity around it reminded me of Terry Pratchett's Discworld novels. And the thing is, I think that Terry Pratchett is the only person that can really get away with that kind of complete madness, because his books are completely crazy and they shouldn't make sense, but they do. But he gets away with it because he's Terry Pratchett, and you know, he had written so many books, and it just became this thing that's what his books are like. And I think this kind of was on a border of that kind of crazy madness, and it just didn't really work for me. I didn't really enjoy it. I kind of felt like I couldn't catch my breath with this book, because it was like they defeated one thing and then they'd walk around the corner and they'd be into something else would be trying to kill them, or they would be in some other situation, and it was kind of like they didn't get a break, and I felt like I didn't get a break, and I just didn't really enjoy it. I had actually put it down and I read Mockingjay instead, because I just wasn't really enjoying it that much, and I picked it back up, but it wasn't a kind of book that I felt like I wanted to pick it back up. I just kind of picked it up because I wanted to finish it. I wasn't picking it up because I actually wanted to read it. So I gave it 2 stars, and I do think that it is probably a good fantasy novel. I just don't think it worked for me. Just for me in particular, it just wasn't a book that I enjoyed, and I won't be reading the rest of the series. The last book I read this week was The Red Lily Crown by Elizabeth Lupus. This was also a NetGalley book, and I really, really enjoyed this book. This was an historical fiction novel, and it is about a girl called Sierra, and she ends up going into the court of Francesco de' Medici, who was a Grand Duke, I think it was of Tuscany in Italy, and she ends up kind of being employed but kind of enslaved by this man, because he was really into alchemy and he was trying to create the Philosopher's Stone, which a lot of people will recognise by Nicholas Flamel and Harry Potter. And he really loved the studies of Nicholas Flamel and he wanted to create the Philosopher's Stone, and he needed a female to help him do this. So he ended up employing Sierra, and she was only 15. Obviously she is fiction, but the court that she's in was real as part of history, and Francesco de' Medici was real. But the story is that he brings her in, she kind of becomes a person in this court, and she's kind of there for all this crazy drama that happens. So it's kind of, affairs, murders, secrets, people going crazy, all this crazy stuff happens, and it's just really, really entertaining, really, really good historical novel. I love knowing. I'm kind of a person that when I start reading about a period of history or a person in history that I don't know that much about, I will go and kind of either go on Wikipedia or somewhere else and kind of read about them to try and figure out what kind of person they were and what happened to them. So it does spoil a little bit with me about, how they die, what year they die, that kind of thing. But I like doing that because I like to be able to go back to the book and being able to see how this historical character or this fictional character is able to fit into that period of history, and how the author can make this person seem like they should have always been there and that they're a real person. So I really, really enjoy that. So I really enjoyed that with this, kind of all the different fictional bits in the book just made a lot of sense. It wasn't anything crazy. I really felt like these people could have been real people in history. I just really enjoyed the intrigue and the mystery and like the darkness around it, because it wasn't all light. There was murders and feuds and all sorts of things happening. That was very, very interesting to read. I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So that is all the books I read this week. Do comment and let me know what you read this week and what you think of the books I read, and if you've read any of them and what you think. I will be back next week, and I hope you guys have a really good week, and I will see you guys again later.